guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoiler-free review for The Final Strife by Saara Al-Sarifi. This is the first book in an adult fantasy trilogy. It follows primarily two main characters. First is Seela, and she was one of the Stolen. So in this world, there is this empire. People are broken up into castes based on the color of their blood. So there's people that have clear blood, there's people that have red, and people that have blue. Seela is one of, I think, 12 children who, as 2-year-olds, were stolen from the Embers and replaced with Duster children as part of this rebellion effort to put a person with a Duster heart but Ember blood on the, not the throne, but there are 4 different wardens that have different duties, and they wanted them to win these trials that happen every 10 years to be put into a place of power within the empire to then eventually overthrow it. So at the beginning, we follow primarily Seela, and she is now 20. Most of the rebellion has died for reasons we don't know at the beginning of the book, and she is a heavy drug user, and all she does is basically fight in these like ring fights to get money to buy drugs, and she has nothing else really that motivates her. Something happens that brings that rebellion more into focus, and so she starts on that path again to potentially enter these trials to become one of the wardens. But during that time, she ends up having to cross paths and get to know the woman who she switched places with. So the Duster child that she ended up switching places with, Nor, she ends up having to associate with her, and everything kind of goes from there, where we have those two primary main characters, and then we do also follow a little snippet of a ghosting character, as well as another member of the rebellion as well. So we get kind of multiple POVs, but I would say Nor and Seela are our two main point of view. This is a heavy book with a lot of heavy content. There's content warnings here for mutilation, physical abuse, emotional abuse, self-harm, some fat phobia, drug use and abuse and overdose, and just overarching systems of oppression and colonization and things. So first off, we talk about the world building. At first, this world building of like, oh, people broken into different castes based on the color of their blood, like we've sort of seen that before, but this definitely feels like the foundation of something that is going to expand far more. So there's a number of different things going on as far as like the different sort of political factions and machinations, all the different players going on. We have this mystery of, is this the only part of the world, or is there more? There's this really fierce thing called a tide wind that every night comes through, and like if you're caught out in it, it will rip the skin from your bones. So that's really brutal. There's a use of blood for sort of blood work, blood magic kinds of things. So that's where the self-harm comes in. And there's just like a lot of different things. I would almost compare this to like, it doesn't really have a Hunger Games feel, but it does have that like the opulence of some parts of the Hunger Games mixed with maybe like the Burning Kingdoms by Tasha Suri a little bit. Some of those things kind of like mixed in, but still this is ultimately its own thing. But yeah, I found the world as we continue to expand it to be more interesting. There are still some things about the world that I feel like weren't fully explained or are just kind of like thrown in there, but it's a trilogy. I think that there's gonna be time to grow into some of that. Next, I'm gonna talk about our characters, and this is where I struggled a little bit more with this book. At the beginning, Seela as a main character, who you primarily follow at the beginning too, is pretty insufferable, and she has her moments like throughout where she's like, Arr. I will say that I ended up appreciating her arc, but at the beginning I almost DNF'd this because I was like, I find her to be like awful. But at the same time, I think that was purposefully done. She is a heavy drug user that is very caught in her addiction, and then there's this, the thing that kind of like still rubbed me the wrong way throughout the book was her and another character in particular. They go kind of back and forth with the way that they think about Embers versus Dusters and like their place in society. And so they have this thing where like they hate all Embers, but they're Embers, right? Because they have this like red blood. And then she gets really jealous of Nor and is like, you're a spoiled brat, but also I should have been you and you took my place and blah, blah, blah. When it's like, she didn't take your place. Like she was swapped as a baby like you were, like it, and that continues throughout the book, which is like kind of annoying to me. Like it's like kind of pick a lane, but I guess people are complex and two things can exist at once. But it just, this overarching like, I hate this and I want to burn down this sort of society, but then also you took my spot and it should have been me. It's like, wait, what? But then you would have been one of the bad people that you hate. I don't know. It just was a lot there. Nor as a character, I really loved kind of from the get-go. And honestly, both of them go through a really good arc to be just like better people. Like the way that their sort of relationship and having to interact with each other and everything forms is really interesting, and like they really motivate each other to like learn more, be better, all of that. So by the end, I didn't have really many problems with the characters or anything. It was just at the beginning, it was a little rough. So if you don't like unlikable characters, you might not like this. Then the characters in general just have like a lot of representation going on. So all of the characters in this world are Black, and then you have some trans characters and just gender non-conforming, non-binary characters. Like that is a thing throughout, and there's not really any, from what I remember, any like homophobia or like transphobia or anything like this is an established thing in the world. They have a word for like non-binary people. Transness is like very much okay and all of that. So it's not really about oppression in that way. It's much more about oppression based on like blood and things. There is bisexual representation in here, a sapphic relationship in here, multiple Achillean relationships on display. And then there's a number of things regarding disability, because the ghostings are actually like mutilated by the embers. So whenever a new baby is born, their hands and their tongue are chopped off. So they have to communicate via kind of like a sign language. So we have that representation as well. And yeah, there's just like a lot of different things going on in this as far as like characters and like the different types of people and different types of like cultures that are represented. Lastly, we talk about the plot. So again, at first, like the beginning of it was a little slow. Like it took a while to ramp up past Seela and her like drug addiction until we got sort of the ball rolling. But once we did, that was very intriguing. And then there's lots of different elements that we're sort of figuring out as far as the trials, getting through the trials, all the political machinations, all the different power players, and also this overarching plot of like, what is this world really and what's going on? So overall, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the writing. I enjoyed this as a debut, and I will be continuing with this series. I ended up giving about 4 out of 5 stars, I would say. Especially towards the end, it was very solid. So I'm looking forward to the rest of this, and especially what this set up and the direction that our characters are going, I think is really intriguing. So I would recommend this one. So comment below and let me know what you thought of the Final Strife. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.